Hi everybody, hope everybody's well, keeping safe. I thought I'd do a quick video on um, my journey through talking therapies and my opinion on them really. Um, well, I first had um, some form of therapy when I was 22, back in the early 90s, for multiple trauma at the time. And therapy from then until now is very different to what it is now. Back then, back in the early 90s, you was given you was referred to a psychologist. I mean, you are today, but the psychologist worked a lot different back in the early 90s. More of a kind of one-to-one basis, but there was no CBT or anything like that. It was just more, I assume, some kind of form of counselling really. They even did home visits, which doesn't happen today, and you got to see a psychiatrist quite quickly really, fairly quicker than you do today, certainly in the UK anyway. I don't know about anywhere else in the world. But at the time, it did help, from what I can remember. It's quite a few years ago now, but since fast forward to when I was 39, when I decided to give up alcohol because of 25 years of alcohol dependency. I remember having some CBT when I was in alcohol services, and at the time I didn't like it. It did me head in. Maybe it was too early to start that kind of therapy, but it was offered, so I tried it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the homework side of things, and I didn't really conform to it very well. However, I did have also person-centered counselling, which is completely different than CBT. Person-centered counselling is about what you bring to the session, and your counsellor should help you come to the conclusions you need to come to really. Whereas the CBT is very structured, but it's very structured, and it's more of a you get given homework. It's a very structured therapy. You have weekly goals kind of thing. I didn't really take to that very well, not certainly 10 years ago anyway. However, the counselling was useful. I did find the talking through past traumas, talking with a counsellor, a person-centered counsellor. But I found that very helpful. The empathy they showed, the empathy was very important. However, I have had counselling, CBT. Again, I had CBT a couple of years ago, and this time I did find it useful. I engaged with it better than the first time. I engaged with the homework and the tasks that were set each week. I found the structure of CBT really helped. So I was able to embrace it better, a lot more efficiently really than I did the first time round. It was obviously the first time wasn't the right time at the time. So no, the second time I had CBT, I had it for about 12, 14, I think it's 14 months actually in total. It was high intensity CBT, and I found that really useful, to be honest. I found it quite useful at the time. It did help with anxiety. It did help. That was one of the main reasons for going there. It's anxiety, something I've suffered with all my life. Even since a child. But it did help. At the time. And then it was discovered through CBT that I would benefit from CAT, which is cognitive analytical therapy, which I found really cool. I found that really good. Um, kind of, it's not like CBT. It's kind of the CAT works on relationships and patterns within your lives, within your past, and helps you make sense of what's happened really in the past in your relationships with people and how they kind of affect you now, in the, to present day. But the CAT, certainly the second time, I found quite useful at the time. I had a good therapist. I think it's important to have a good therapist and have a trust with your therapist, and build up a good relationship. Like I say, the structure with CBT I found quite useful at the second time round. The CAT, I found kind of strange. We did, halfway, 2/3 through therapy, we did what's called, I think it's from the Gestalt theory, what's known as the empty chair activity. So basically, what that means is I had to face an empty chair and imagine who was in that chair that I wanted to kind of speak to. You can put a photograph there apparently of whoever. In my case it was parents. And you say what you want to say to them, and then the first time the therapist, in my case anyway, relayed back what they might have said. However, the week after, I swapped chairs. I spoke to my parents and said what I wanted to say, and then I went in their chair and I said what I think they would have said back, or what they did at the time. It was kind of strange, but it's quite powerful also. I did actually enjoy doing it in the end. I did it for about 3-4 weeks, I think, something like that. Quite odd, but it is pretty good. It's quite powerful. So basically, my honest opinion really of therapy is, I think you need to approach them with an open mind, and give it a go. It may not work the first time, may not work the second time, but if it's offered, maybe have a go. I've studied therapy as a foundation degree, counselling and psychotherapy, so I've done a lot of the theory also. Like I say, it's not one shoe size fits all. It works for some, doesn't for others. It's the same as the antidepressants, it's the same as medication, but I think sometimes, even if it didn't work the first time, maybe if you're offered it again, maybe try again, because the second time might be the right time. I certainly think approaching therapy with an open mind, I think you'll get the most out of it. And my advice really is, and from my experience, if you can go to each session and pull something useful from each session, then something, it could be you'll get something from it. Like I say, it don't work for everyone, and it's not for everyone, but I found it fairly useful. I mean, like I say, early doors, 10 years ago, when I was first offered CBT, I didn't like it. It did me head in, the homework, and I didn't even understand what emotions were, so it was the wrong time. However, the second time round, 3-4 years ago, I found it really useful. I think it's important to engage with your therapy, engage with your therapist, because I think consistency is important with it, and the willingness to do it, the willingness to want to do it. But also, your therapist needs, you need to get on with your therapist. I've had the odd therapist in the past, with other therapy, and it's I've not liked the therapist. I've come straight away. I had one person-centered counsellor once, weren't keen at all, so I never went back. However, I've had person-centered counselling, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, and she was awesome. So I think honestly, therapy has a place. It certainly has a place in treating mental health. I certainly think it's worth a try, and it's maybe worth a second try. Definitely is worth giving it a second chance. Possibly third, and give it your best, and engage. It's important. It really is important to engage to get the most out of it. It can be scary. Therapy can be scary, which is if you're certainly with counselling, person-centered counselling, if you're going to talk about, it takes a while to build up that trust with your counsellor, because at the end of the day you could be sharing some really intimate detail. I don't think, certainly in the UK, I don't know about anywhere else in the world, you don't quite often with person-centered counselling, you're offered 8 sessions or something. I think it's I personally don't think that's anywhere near enough. It certainly weren't for me. I had a lot more than 8 sessions, but I did spell that out to the therapist before I even went. It was set off. It took me 8 sessions to trust. So I certainly think counselling should be spread out over a good 12 months as far as I'm concerned, a good 8 months maybe. I think I had it for 12 months, something like that, person-centred. It's the same with CBT as well. Initially you only get about 6 sessions. Well, that's fair enough if it's maybe something very minor, but for something if there's traumas there, it's been all your life, it's going to take a lot more than 6. But then I think you certainly do in the UK and in the Northwest anyway, you get referred on to more higher intense CBT, which then does go on for 12, 14, 18 months or so, something like that. I think mine was 14 months. But no, I think the main thing to do is engage. Is engage. I think it's, having studied it at university for 2 years and practiced it, also, and we had to, even though not account, we had to role play and practice this. I think, which was, we did person-centered, we did CBT, and we did psychoanalysis as well. Psychoanalysis is completely different. Don't seem to get offered it in this country, but psychoanalysis looks back at all your past, and your therapist will make opinions or judgments, or use their expertise to help you unravel things from your past. It's psychoanalysis I enjoyed at university. It's really interesting. Sigmund Freud and the likes, Melanie Klein, don't know Winnicott, with the child behaviour, but no, confused. I think certainly therapy has a place. It does have a place. It's worth giving it your best shot. It's to get the most out of it. Engage with it. Engage with your therapist, like I've said before, and try it. Certainly try it. If it don't work the first time, try again, possibly in the third time. I have been down to do DBT, but because my medication seems to be working quite well at the moment, I might not even bother with it. I think I'd only be going now just for a nosy or the experience, but I might put that on hold for now. But no, so at the end of the day, if this video really, if anybody's out there waiting for therapy or kind of anxious about therapy or what does it entail, everything's confidential, nothing's shared. The only time things are shared is if they feel you're you're a danger to yourself or others, or children involved, etc., then things, your the confidentiality will be broken. But your therapist would go through that with you at the beginning, whether that's CBT, CAT, or person-centered. Is you get a contract at the beginning and what's expected of the therapy and what you expect to get from the therapy, and but the fact that everything is treated with strict confidentiality, and however, unless you're going to harm yourself or others, or there's different things, there's Terrorism Act and all sorts nowadays, but and if there's child abuse going on or something like that, but normally it's very serious if confidentiality has to be broken, but it's normally within your best interest, to be honest, or somebody else would know. It's what's said in that room stays in the room between you and your therapist. Maybe sometimes if the therapist is quite stuck of what to do, they may share with their supervisor, but I think they will tell you that they're going to do that. But yeah, I would certainly give it a go. Anyway, that's enough for me waffling on, I think. I do tend to waffle on a bit. Anyway, so I hope anybody's enjoyed this or gets anything from it. Please comment, subscribe, and hopefully speak soon. Thank you.